The city never sleeps, and neither do the shadows hiding within it. Ethan Cole was not born a criminal, but the streets carved him into one. Raised in a broken home, with a father who disappeared and a mother who worked double shifts just to keep the lights on, Ethan learned early that the world was not fair. While other kids dreamed of futures built on education and careers, Ethan's dreams were simpler: survival, escape, and money. Lots of it. By the time he was 16, Ethan had already mastered small tricks. He could slip a wallet from a pocket without being noticed, bypass security locks on cheap phones, and sell stolen gadgets in dark alleys. But the true power revealed itself when he discovered computers. It was like magic, a hidden world behind the glowing screen, where the right code could open vaults more secure than any bank door. His specialty became credit card scams and high-tech fraud. With a single laptop, a hidden VPN trail, and stolen card numbers from the dark web, Ethan could drain accounts in minutes. He didn't just take money. He erased digital identities, crafted false profiles, and became a ghost no one could pin down. To the world, he was invisible, but to the victims, he was a nightmare. He spent his nights in neon-lit clubs, surrounded by people who never questioned where his money came from. Luxury cars roared under his hands, expensive whiskey filled his glass, and strangers envied his fast life. But beneath the smiles and noise, Ethan was haunted by silence, the silence of knowing that every keystroke carried a risk. For months, the city's cybercrime task force had been hunting the ghost who drained millions from bank accounts. They gave him a code name, Specter. Detective Sarah Hayes, sharp, relentless, and obsessed with justice, became the lead on the case. She was known for her patience. She could spend nights buried in data, connecting patterns others missed. Every transaction, every fake ID, every subtle digital fingerprint, Sarah collected them like puzzle pieces. Her obsession grew into a vow. She would bring down Specter, no matter what it took. But Ethan wasn't just a criminal. He was a survivor who had learned to disappear. Every time Sarah got close, he slipped deeper into the cracks of cyberspace, mocking her chase with another theft, another false trail. Yet, cracks were beginning to show. Ethan had grown reckless. The thrill of stealing was no longer just about money. It was about power, control, and proving he was untouchable. He started leaving traces, not because he failed, but because deep down he wanted someone to see him. A part of him longed to be caught, if only to end the endless cycle of paranoia. One night, Ethan sat alone in his dark apartment, surrounded by 6 glowing monitors. Lines of code scrolled like rivers of light, bank transfers danced across the screens, and in the silence, the sound of his own breathing grew heavy. Suddenly, a warning message blinked across the screen. They're closer than you think. Ethan froze. His fingers hovered above the keyboard, and for the first time in years, his pulse raced with fear. Who had sent the message? Was it a rival hacker, a system breach, or had Detective Hayes finally cracked his wall of shadows? Outside, the city roared with life. Cars honked, music thundered from late-night bars, and laughter echoed in the streets. But in Ethan's small apartment, the air grew colder. The neon glow reflected on his tired eyes, and he realized something he never admitted before. This wasn't a game anymore. This was survival. And somewhere, beyond the glass towers and city lights, Detective Sarah Hayes was already moving closer, tightening the noose with every step. For the first time, the ghost felt human. And humans can bleed. The rain poured harder than ever that night, washing the streets in silver reflections. Detective Sarah Hayes sat in her unmarked car, eyes fixed on a dimly lit apartment building. Her trace had finally led her here. Inside, behind shuttered windows and glowing screens, the ghost, Ethan Cole, Specter, was still at work. Ethan's fingers danced nervously across the keyboard. The warning from weeks ago echoed louder in his mind. Every line of code felt heavier, every transaction slower. He could sense it, the weight of something closing in. But he refused to stop. Stopping meant surrender, and surrender was death. Down on the street, Sarah's radio crackled as the task force prepared to move in. She tightened her grip on her weapon, her heart steady despite the storm outside. She had waited months for this moment, the chance to face the man who had slipped through her fingers time and time again. Suddenly, Ethan's screen flickered. His system, once flawless, was breached. Lines of foreign code began to pour across his monitors, erasing his firewalls one by one. Panic surged through him. He slammed keys, tried rerouting signals, but it was useless. They had found him. For a brief second, his eyes caught a reflection in the darkened window, red and blue lights flashing faintly outside. His chest tightened. He had always imagined this day, but reality was far colder. The door burst open. Armed officers flooded the room, their voices sharp and commanding. "Hands where we can see them." Ethan froze. The weight of years of crime, deception, and fear collapsed all at once. For the first time, he saw himself not as Specter, not as a ghost, but as a man who had finally run out of shadows. Detective Sarah stepped in, rain dripping from her coat, eyes locked on him. There was no triumph in her gaze, only resolve. She spoke firmly, her voice echoing through the tense silence. "It's over, Ethan." He looked at her, breathing heavily, hands trembling. Part of him wanted to fight, to run, to vanish once more. But deep down, he knew the chase was done. Slowly, he raised his hands, surrendering to the inevitable. As the officers cuffed him, Ethan glanced once more at his screens. Lines of unfinished code blinked back at him, like fragments of a life that had burned too bright, too fast. His empire of shadows was gone. Sarah exhaled, a long breath she had been holding for months. Justice wasn't always clean, and it wasn't always sweet, but tonight, the city had one less ghost haunting it. Outside, the storm began to clear. And in the silence that followed, only the faint hum of the city remained, a reminder that no matter how clever, how untouchable, every criminal's story eventually ends. Detective Sarah Hayes had learned to live with the quiet hum of sleepless nights. While the city rested, she studied. While families sat at dinner tables, she traced signals through tangled webs of data. The face of Ethan Cole, the man they called Specter, burned in her mind, though she had never truly seen him. Her office was filled with screens, wires, and case files. Pinned to the wall were fragments of his life, screenshots of transactions, photographs of nightclubs he was rumored to visit, lists of usernames and stolen IDs. Sarah stared at them for hours, piecing together the Phantom's trail like a jigsaw puzzle where most pieces were missing. But something was changing. Specter was making mistakes. Transactions appeared sloppier, leaving behind traces of his signature style. Sarah felt it deep in her gut. He was growing reckless, maybe even desperate. And that gave her an opening. Late one night, Sarah followed a lead on a suspicious wire transfer. The signal bounced across 3 continents, but she recognized the rhythm of Ethan's work, sharp, calculated, but arrogant. Her eyes narrowed as she whispered to herself, "Asterisk, I've got you now." Asterisk. Meanwhile, Ethan was losing control. The warning message from his last hack still haunted him. Every time he logged on, he imagined invisible eyes watching, waiting for him to slip. He drowned his fear in louder music, faster cars, and wilder nights. But when he came back to his apartment, alone with the glow of his screens, silence gnawed at him. The ghost of his childhood resurfaced in that silence. He remembered his mother crying over unpaid bills, the empty fridge, the eviction notices. He had promised himself he would never feel powerless again. Crime gave him power, but it also chained him to paranoia. Sarah finally caught a break. She intercepted a private chat room Ethan used to sell stolen data. Through carefully planted bait, she sent him a message disguised as a buyer. When Ethan responded, Sarah's system traced the faintest flicker of his signal. For the first time, she saw a shadow of his true location, the east side of the city. She leaned back in her chair, adrenaline rushing through her veins. Her hand shook slightly as she realized the chase was no longer digital. It was real. Ethan, oblivious to how close she was, typed quickly into the chat. He thought he was in control, thought he was playing another anonymous client. But with every keystroke, the walls around him were collapsing. That night, Detective Hayes stood by her office window, looking out at the rain-soaked streets below. Somewhere out there, the ghost lived, laughed, and believed he was untouchable. But Sarah whispered into the night, her voice calm, steady, and certain. Asterisk, your time is almost up, Specter. Asterisk. And for the first time, the game between them felt like it was moving to its final stage.